contemplating about something.
Ah, yes, Shubha. The poem here seems to carry the weight of 1,000 farewells within it.
50 episodes, Indira ma'am. 50 journeys into the hearts and souls of poets from across the world. But yet each poem looks and feels as if it's a new discovery altogether.
Shubha, you realize poetry, like love, transcends time and space.
It does.
And today we're going to do something different.
Okay.
We're going to take poetry from the east and west of India.
Wow.
From the lovely shores of Gujarat to the deserts of Rajasthan. And in the east, from the verdant plains of Bengal.
Wow.
This poem in Gujarati is not about lost love. It's about a yearning for something that one has loved.
And the one from Bengal?
And from the land of Gurudev, we have this Bengali poem, which speaks of a different shade of loss. A bittersweet acceptance of a love that was never to be. Shubha, now that we are talking about Indian poetry, it may not be out of place to talk about Indian poetics. And who else but Bharata Muni? His Natya Shastra was written almost 2,000 years ago.
Indeed, Indira ma'am, the great Bharat Muni. In fact, Natya Shastra is, Indira ma'am, one of the most detailed studies on theatre to be ever written.
Writing about rasa, Bharata Muni says in a beautiful aphorism that Staiva gets translated into rasa. Simply put, it means that a permanent emotion transforms itself into aesthetic pleasure.
Indira ma'am, our poems for this particular episode deal from all the 9 Navarasas, as we call it, deal with the emotion of virah or viyog. How do I translate this into English? Separation?
More than separation, I think it is abandonment, relinquishment, disassociation, and much more.
Indira ma'am, 2 languages, 2 regions, but one universal language. Language of a heart that has loved and yet lost.
Indeed, Shubha. Today, we look at the tapestry of separation and longing, interwoven with threads of the sweet memory of a love that has been lost and the first poem that we have today is by Meera, also known as Meerabai, and the title of the Gujarati poem is Piya Karan Ke Peeli Re. Can we translate it into English as Why Am I So Pale? Let's see what the poem is about. Meerabai, the royal princess, married to Bhojraj, another royal scion. And what did she do? Just not interested in the domestic duties of a royal household. Very much a part of the Bhakti movement in India, which lasted for almost 700 to 800 years. She sang in praise of, in love for, the great Krishna. Of course, she called him Giridhar. She wrote in 3 languages, Gujarati, Hindi and Marwari. She wrote about 1400 songs, I believe, of which 200 are still popular today as bhajans. And why did I choose this poem, Piya Karan Re? Why this poem? I felt like diving into the ocean, searching for an oyster with a pearl. So let's see what this poem is all about.
पिया कारण रे पीली भई रे, लोक जाने घट रोग, छप छपला में कई करूं, माहे पियू ने मिलन लियो जोग रे, नाड़ी वैद्य तेड़ाविया रे, पकड़ दंदोले मोरी बाह, एरे पीड़ा परखे नहीं, मोहे कसक काल जानी मोह रे.
As with many great poems all over the world, this poem too has no title. Ever so many translations available. Well, I've taken one which says, I am pale with longing for my love. People think I'm ill. I find every possible excuse and look for a chance to meet my love. The yearning to be one with her lover is probably the guiding principle of Meera's life and poetry. It's a pity, but we have to look at the poem in English. That makes it easier for most of our viewers. So what does the poem say in English? Let me read the whole thing again. I am pale with longing for my love. People think I'm ill. I find every possible excuse and look for a chance to meet my love. They send for a country doctor. He seizes my arm and shakes it. He does not know my pain, for my pain is within my heart. Go home, country doctor, do not take my name. I am wounded by God's name. Do not force your medicine on me. The nectar of his lips is a pot filled with sweetness. The nectar of his lip is the diet I will take. Meera's God is the lifter of mountains. I will drink that nectar again and again. What does it say? Who doesn't know Meera ke Prabhu Giridhar Nagar? Every song of hers ends with that. So what do we have in this poem? Very simply, when people look at me, she says, kind-hearted family members think I'm ill because I've become pale. So what can they do? They send for the Vaidya. The Vaidya, is the country doctor, the village doctor, the native doctor. He comes and looks at me and decides what medicines I should take. But she says to the doctor, as well as to her family members, do not force me to take your medicine, because my sickness is within my heart. My love, my yearning, which you cannot see, but which I experience every moment of my life. Why am I in the condition in which I am? I think it's that which makes this poem and ever so many of Meera's songs appealing to us. What is love all about? Especially when we talk about the love of God. This poem clarifies once again what Meera believed in. Meera didn't think of a God which has to be appeased with rituals, with the do's and don'ts that are prescribed by our religion. Instead, it is a direct yearning for her love. Can you see that? What she feels cannot be understood by the rest of the world, and therefore the poem appeals to me. It's almost as if I have a direct ISD, STD, call it what you will, to reach my God. After the great spiritual poet Meera, we now move on to another great poet of India, the towering figure of Rabindranath Tagore, and Bengal and Bengali poetry. Yes, it is about the enchanted deer, which he calls Maya Bone Biharini Harini. But let me tell you, I prefer to call the poem Okaron. Why? You will see very soon. The poet Rabindranath Tagore, the founder of Shantiniketan, Gurudev to many of us. What shall I call him? Poet, dramatist, short story writer, novelist, translator, painter. Oh well, I could go on and on. One of the leading figures of the 20th century, nationalist and patriotic of course, but to me, his Rabindra Sangeet is probably the greatest contribution. Probably no Bengali knowing person would need an explanation about this. In fact, as we go on with this poem, you will see how the lyrical quality it is which makes him, in addition to everything else, such a great poet.
Maya bono biharini horini, gohono shopno sancharini, keno tare dhoribare koripon, o karon, থাক নিজ মনে দূরেতি, আমি শুধু বানশিরের সুরেতি, পরশ করিব ওর প্রাণ মন, ও কারণ।
Okaron. I feel that should be the title of the poem, Without a Reason. Let me first read it in English before I go ahead. Wandering doe of the enchanted forest, who roams within deepest of my dreams, why do I want to capture her? Is there a reason? Okaron, is there a reason? The poem doesn't have a title, but of course it is about the roaming deer of the enchanted forest. Let me read the English verse again. Wandering doe of the enchanted forest, who roams within the deepest of my dreams, why do I want to capture her? I want us to remember that line because the entire poem is about this. Why? Why do we want to hold on to things? Why don't we allow them to roam free like the deer? He uses the word doe in translation because remember, a doe, D-O-E, is the female deer. Let her be by herself afar. I'll only through the melody of my flute touch her life and soul. Remember the earlier poem had a flute too, but more of it later. Let her be by herself afar. I'll only through the melody of my flute touch her life and soul for no reason, O Karun. She will startle in the monsoon wind, will surrender as the heavens speak, will grow restless now and then for no reason. I can't but help wonder here why we call it the monsoon wind, because Tagore calls it Fagun. What is Fagun? What does the month of Fagun mean? In Viraha, remember, nature is very, very important. And then he concludes by saying, I will yearn her from afar. I will secretly fasten her with a rope of separation. A tie without a tie. A tie without a tie for no reason. Okaron. The poem is beautiful. Beautiful in sound. Remember, reading a poem aloud gives us an idea of the lyricism, the music. And where does the music come? From the choice of words. Biharini, Horini. Unless I say it in Bengali, in the original, we might miss out something of it. There is the sound of the poem and there is the sense of the poem. So what about the thematic concerns here? The human desire, the human nature to possess, to hold on. And Tagore is probably making fun of it when he says, why do I want to hold on? Why don't I realize that separation is as important as being together? In fact, he's giving us, can I call it the moral of the poem? That it is important to understand the value of letting go. Isn't the deer roaming in the forest far more beautiful than a deer tied inside my garden? And what about the theme? And therefore he says, don't capture, but let go. And if you let go, there is more beauty in it. Viraha, yes, but a different kind of viraha here. We've heard both the poems, and what are we left with? What is it that they have in common? Or what is it that makes them so different? Divided by time and space and writers, I think what is common is, of course, love. Love and separation. Various kinds of love and different kinds of separation. Yes, that is what makes them one. Isn't it what human experience is all about? Love. Love for nature. Love for God. It could be any kind of love. It could be love at any level, but love it is. And then separation. What kind of separation are we looking at? In Meera's case, it was a yearning for somebody who she knows is there, but who is far away from her. Yes, in Meera's case. And in Tagore's case, let's remember, it is about letting go. It is about separation. It is about understanding that being far away could still make you love it just as much. Any difference between love of nature and love of God? Any difference between yearning and acceptance of separation? I think you will have to think about it and come to your own conclusions.